Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our show. For the show of today, the topic is Chantal Biya really controlling Cameroon, running Cameroon day to day? That's a question so many of you have asked me, and I've decided that I have to answer this question in the video of today. I received so many requests calling, who is Chantal? You guys talk to her about her a lot. So is she the one really running Cameroon day to day? The answer may be yes, and the answer may be no. So you guys have really made a very big claim. Is Chantal Biya really running Cameroon day to day? Probably the only parallel I can use to explain the situation in Cameroon is what obtained in the United States of America during the term of Woodrow Wilson. You remember, Woodrow Wilson was the president of the U.S. during the time of 1913, and he led the U.S. during the First World War. He was part of the founding of the League of Nations. But he had a wife called Edith Wilson. Edith was very, very influential. I will not say she was running the United States. I would rather say she was very influential. Similarly, Chantal Biya is not really running Cameroon. I would say she's very, very influential. I would not really say she's running Cameroon day to day, but she's doing this by proxy. So if you want to say Chantal Biya is running Cameroon, really running Cameroon, then she becomes what I call a proxy president, Madame la Presidente. All hail Queen Chantal Biya. When we look at Edith Wilson in the United States, what happened? Well, in 1919, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke. So this stroke incapacitated the president, so he was not able to exercise the function of president completely. And what happened to Woodrow Wilson is common in many other African countries. Look at Cameroon's neighbor, Gabon. When Ali Bongo had a health issue, he also had a stroke. The wife, Sylvie Bongo, started exercising some functions of the presidency. Even though she went further, it was revealed, she would sign documents on behalf of her husband. In the case of the United States, Edith Wilson said she never really signed documents on behalf of the husband, but she controlled access. She controlled who saw Woodrow Wilson and who did not. The same happens in La République du Cameroon. Let's take the example during the COVID years, like 2020, 2022. Chantal Biya controlled who saw Paul Biya on a day-to-day basis. She prevented a lot of people from seeing the president. Before you saw Paul Biya, you had to obtain permission from Chantal Biya. That's the way things worked. Okay? So does this mean she was running the country day to day? Well, you have proponents and you have detractors. So those who are supporting Chantal Biya will say, no, she's not really running the country on a day-to-day basis. She's merely having influence, and her influence is very, very big in the system. So who is Chantal Biya in the first place? Well, Chantal Biya is the First Lady of Cameroon. She married Paul Biya in 1994. Some of you know her. You see her with her pompadour, big hair, big stuff, big wigs. That's what she's known for. But many people are deceived. She had very humble beginnings. Bertrand Tailloux wrote a book, The Beauty, From the Street to the Palace. He was jailed and died just because of this book. He laid bare the whole origin of Chantal Biya, where she came from. Chantal Biya is actually a product of a French father, Georges Vigouroux, and Rosette, a Cameroonian mother. They were not married. Just like Chantal, Rosette was a beautiful lady. She participated in a lot of beauty contests. So she had a child out of wedlock. That's how Chantal Biya was born. She grew up in Yaoundé, and a lot of people knew her during those days in Yaoundé. She was just struggling, just like any other person. Eliza Azar tells a lot of stories about her. She was killed, and it was suspected that Chantal arranged for the lady to be killed. Actually, she was the one who arranged and Chantal visited Mvumeka during a party. Biya saw her and fell in love with her. We understand Frank Biya, Biya's son, was the one who invited a friend. Then the friend brought Chantal. There are so many stories, rumor. You don't know which one is fact, which one is rumor. But there are so many stories swirling around this lady's identity. So she is from Dimako, from the east of Cameroon. Okay? So many people talk about, you see, she focuses on Dimako, Nangai Boko. That's her area. So that's where she hails from. But sometimes we tell people, do not underestimate people. The case of Chantal Biya shows that when you underestimate people, you make a whole lot of mistakes. Even Paul Biya was underestimated by a lot of his opponents. Amadou Ahidjo underestimated him, and he taught Amadou Ahidjo a bitter lesson. Similarly, when Chantal Biya married Paul Biya in 1994, she was underestimated by a lot of the barons in the Biya system, and they paid the price. And this is why Chantal always has a list of casualties. People who cross her and paid the price dearly. People who did not cross her, who worship her, allow her to reign as a queen, they receive a lot of benefits. Okay? They receive a lot of favors. So that's how you see it. So what Chantal was able to do was, she had street smarts. Okay? You may say she did not have good education. People laugh at her. But when she came to the palace, she spent time, she educated herself, and she polished herself up. So she rose from her circumstances. Okay? She made good with what was offered her. She was taught every day, and I remember people who were teaching her, and she did a whole lot. Some people would have married Biya and did nothing for themselves. But Chantal wanted to be an actor. She did not just want to be First Lady. From the very beginning, she set out to conquer the throne. And what did she do? She started building her circle of influence. Today, her fingers are everywhere. But this is not the way things were from the very beginning. From the beginning, she was a very shy, humble wife. When she came, she would only come out just like an accessory for the president, like a trophy wife. But Chantal wanted to be more than a trophy wife. So she set her sights on conquering the seat of power. First, she knew Paul Biya loved her dearly. So she wanted to take advantage of the love Paul Biya had for her. Then she started building her own power network. When you look at CERAC, Cercle des Amis du Cameroun, this is one of the networks Chantal uses to gain influence and control people in Cameroon. In Cameroon, a lot of those people are desperate for power. They are desperate for money. So Cercle des Amis, CERAC, is an organization created by Chantal. She uses it to dominate. With this organization, you know who belongs and who doesn't belong. So when you come to this organization, you realize that Chantal presides over the organization like the reigning queen of Cameroon. If she doesn't want you to be a minister, in a few weeks you'll be fired. You'll lose your position. If she wants you to get a position, you are in favor, she will make sure you get a position in the government. And this is how most of the appointments have been made. So the appointments have not been made because Biya sat down and calculated that this is going to be a great person. No, most of the appointments were made just based on their feelings. Oh, we think this guy is from the Beti area, we can use him. Look at the example of Mebengo. Was not good for the Biya system. She threw him out. She put him in jail. So you can see, this started even with Martin Belinga Ebutu. Martin Belinga Ebutu used to be in New York. They were calling him L'homme du Président Paul Biya. So he was the president's eyes, the president's ear. Whenever the president needed something, instead of going there in person, the president sent Belinga Ebutu. So Belinga Ebutu was at the Cameroon mission in New York for many years, and he was the one who introduced Ferdinand Gongo to Chantal Biya. But because they come from the same area, Minta, that's the small place where Ferdinand Gongo comes from. So Chantal also is from the east, so they have just been like brothers and sisters. Even though there have been rumors saying that they are boy and girlfriend. We cannot substantiate it, so we cannot say what we cannot substantiate. Why is Ferdinand Gongo in the presidency as Secretary General since 2011? People have come and gone, but he has been able to stay in that position. Why? Because he is Chantal Biya's protege. He is very powerful, and he has committed so many crimes. Each time the government wants to punish him, Chantal Biya said, hey, don't. Each time they want to bring new people into the government, a cabinet reshuffle is in the offing, Chantal Biya will say, no, Ferdinand Gongo has to stay as Secretary General. So Ferdinand Gongo is not the only person. You also have Oswa Baboke. Oswa Baboke also is a guy who is just like Chantal Biya's brother. They knew each other long time ago, and he's really benefiting from this friendship. He runs a big church for like born again in Yaoundé, but it doesn't mean he's Mr. Clean. These guys are really the ones running a lot of the businesses for Chantal. When you see corruption and power, these guys are the ones really running things for Chantal. Okay? Then what about somebody like Atanga Mebara? Well, Atanga Mebara was also the Secretary General at the presidency. What happened? When he fell out of favor with Chantal, it didn't take long. They pushed him out. Now he ended up in jail. So people have come to understand that you don't mess with Chantal. The cases are so many. I can even give you the case of the governor of the Southwest region, Bernard Okala Bilai. We hear Okala Bilai was having an affair. He brought his girlfriend into the house and left the master's bedroom where he was sleeping with his wife. When Chantal heard about it, so Okala Bilai's wife went and reported to Chantal. And Chantal called Okala Bilai and asked him, do you want to keep the woman that you are keeping in that house, that your girlfriend, or do you want your job? Okala Bilai begged for mercy. He said, Mama, Chantal, let me keep my job. So most of the ladies know that Chantal is the champion. If you have problems with your husband and you don't know what to do, you went to Chantal, and Chantal will correct your husband. And Chantal has a lot of rules. You cannot come to the presidency as a woman with pants. She's the only one who can wear pants in the presidency. Any other lady has to wear skirts. So Chantal has her rules. When you break these rules, she makes you pay. So the palace is run just like a monarchy. You may say Cameroon is a republic. A republic? Not really. It is a banana republic at best. But we see it more like a monarchy. Biya is the king. He runs the country. He reigns with his queen. They reign. They are reigning in the country. And that's what is happening. So when you look at this, then you say to yourself, Biya is protected by Chantal. Especially on 20th May, we told you that Biya fell and everything was covered up very fast. Biya is frail, he's aging, so he cannot really exercise the function of president completely. So Chantal fills in the void. And what Chantal has done is she has created what I call a proxy presidency. Even though she's only a first lady, she doesn't have any legitimate source of power, but she has influence. And she uses this influence very, very well, which is what your average Cameroonian is not understanding. And now that we are dealing with succession secrets, Paul Biya is owing a lot to Chantal. He's old, he's aged, and he's sick. So he cannot really perform most of the functions he used to perform before. Sometimes he has very limited moments of lucidity. They have to do a lot to keep him awake. So Chantal has to fill in. Even during the celebration of the 20th May, before Paul Biya fell, sometimes he just looks lost. Samuel Mvondo Ayolo, the chief of cabinet of the president, will say, oh, Mami Chantal, come and get your guy. Chantal will come and hold Paul Biya to take him to where she wants him to go, just like a baby. During the events, you see Chantal touching his head like a little boy. Is this a president? The president is no longer the lion man you guys knew. The president has become very feeble with age. Yet, these people want him to stay in power so that they can take advantage of the transition. So what is happening now in Cameroon is the battle of the clans. You have people who are battling for succession, and Chantal is at the very seat of power where this battle is taking place. From informed sources, we've been told that Paul Biya has pushed the introduction of the post of vice president in 2026. This happened in April 2026. Why? Well, it is a mechanism for succession. And we've been told by inside sources in Etudi that the person that Paul Biya actually wants to succeed him is his son, Frank Biya. But Chantal doesn't like Paul Biya's son to succeed him. Chantal has her own candidates. One of Chantal's candidates is Ferdinand Ngongo, okay, who is the powerful Secretary General at the presidency in Cameroon. Then Chantal has a lot of options. Another option that Chantal has is her own son, Frank Hertz. As you guys know, before Chantal married Paul Biya, she already had a relationship where she had 2 children with Louis Hertz, a Franco-Cameroonian business person. I know some of you guys have heard rumors that Chantal was married to Churchill, a Bamenda guy, but so far we've not been able to get reliable information on this. We've read many accounts on social media talking about the way Churchill was killed so that Chantal can marry Paul Biya. But we've not been able to substantiate these claims with real evidence. As a channel, we don't want to make false allegations. But Louis Hertz is the father of these 2 children. We hear he died in 2009. Did Paul Biya kill him? We don't know. But there's a lot of suspicion. People are suspecting who killed Louis Hertz. But 2 of his children are now with Paul Biya. He's raising them like his own children. Recently, we've noticed that Chantal's son, Frank Hertz, who has just changed his name now to Frank Hertz Biya, is also an aspirant to the presidency. So Chantal wants her son, Frank Hertz Biya, to take over from Paul Biya. So this is where the conflict of the clan is taking place. Frank Biya, who is the original son of Paul Biya, has been chosen by his father, even though his father has not made this clear, but that position of vice president has been made for Frank Biya. So why is Chantal messing things up? Because Chantal has her own interests. As power is leaving the dying king, people are positioning. Already, if people did not know that Biya is weak and Biya is dying, what happened on 20th May opened the eyes of Cameroonians. For more than 2 years, we've been telling you that Biya is finished. Some of you do not want to believe it, because Biya cannot really run a country. Now, people are seeing what we've been saying more than 2 years ago, that Biya doesn't have the faculty to run a country. Recently, Usman May, an opposition candidate from the north, made this comment in Jeune Afrique. When you look at Paul Biya, physically, do you think this guy looks like someone who can run a country? No, he cannot run a country, because he has a lot of infirmities. Self-felt Biya cannot run a country. So everybody now has seen that Biya cannot run a country. So if they hang us on in a 2D, think that they can continue deceiving Cameroonians, that time is over. So my friends, I'm asking you as a Cameroonian, open your eyes. It's true, the youth were hoping for change from Issa Chiroma Bakari. It did not happen. Paul Biya has the backing of the army. He was able to use the army to beat back all the protesters and young people who went out to protest. They killed over 50 people. So, the only way that change can come in Cameroon now is not through the streets, because the people are tired. Issa Chiroma is still in Gambia. The people have lost faith in Issa Chiroma. So the only hope people have is like what happened in Gabon should happen in Cameroon. Already, a lot of elements in the army are restless. They are disgruntled because they are not getting their unpaid money on time. Biya has heard about this, and he knows that the army is not happy. The army is the force that has been keeping him in power. If he loses the support of the army, he's finished. So what we are seeing is the only thing that can torpedo the plans that Chantal Biya, Ferdinand Gongo, also Baboke, and the other guys have for succession is a palace coup. Somebody has to rise and make a coup d'etat. And the only person who may have an interest to organize this coup d'etat may be Ferdinand Gongo. Because right now, Ferdinand Gongo controls all the master keys to power. He controls the army, he controls the bee, he controls the presidential guards, he controls the police, he controls the gendarmes, and Israel, France, and all these countries are behind Ferdinand Gongo. So this guy basically is the de facto president of Cameroon. For more than 10 years, he's been running Cameroon as the chief, the CEO, chief executive officer. Is he going to allow the two competing Frank Hertz and Frank Biya, to take the throne from him? We don't think so. Then even Oswald Baboke, we've been told, also has presidential ambitions. Who doesn't have presidential ambition in Biya's circle? Even Samuel Eto'o, a footballer who cannot even write. We hear he cannot even use a computer. He also has presidential ambition because his friends are Chantal's children. Chantal's children are very rich. They occupy a lot of positions in business circles, TradeX. They make a lot of money. So they have the money to buy the election, to buy their access to the succession. Their mother is right at the center. She knows what is happening. A few weeks ago, somebody leaked a story to us. The day Paul Biya left his private quarters and went to the presidential suite on the 3rd floor to work on the document for vice president. When Chantal heard that this is what was happening, her spies told her. She ran to the 3rd floor of the presidential building and tore the whole place apart. So she disturbed everything because she knows that the husband has made up his mind that Frank Biya is the one who has to take over as president. What about Georges Gilbert Bangola? Well, Georges Gilbert Bangola, he claims that he's the real son, the first and real son of Paul Biya. He said Frank Biya is an adopted son. So people are thinking that Chantal Biya is using Georges Gilbert Bangola to torpedo the aspirations of Frank Biya and the Frankists. By saying that Frank Biya is not Biya's real son, he is the real son, so he should actually be the person who should inherit the throne from Paul Biya. But Chantal has her own candidates, as we've told you. Chantal has Ferdinand Gongo, Chantal has her son, Frank Hertz, and Chantal has Oswald Baboke. So among these three, who's going to take over? But we see that Paul Biya himself is leaning more towards his son, Frank Biya. And Frank Biya is supported by not only the Frankies, he's also supported by the Bulu clan. The Bulu clan does not like Chantal, but they are afraid of her because she's usurped so much power and now she's just like a femme fatale. They don't know what to do. Even Admiral Fuda, when she tried to mess up with Chantal Biya, she used the heels of her shoe and hit him on the forehead, sent him home packing. So people know that Chantal is a great lady. You don't mess with her so long as Biya is breathing. Until Biya covers his eyes, that's when people think Chantal may be able to stay down. But for now, her influence remains supreme. Chantal reminds us of Edith Wilson in the United States. So to conclude, we think Chantal has a lot of influence. She may probably convince the husband to choose her son and ignore his own son, Frank Biya. But it remains to be seen. Biya is still maintaining some moments of lucidity. But if he dies in Switzerland, what will happen? Because now Biya has traveled for ill health, is undergoing a lot of treatment. So what happens if he dies suddenly? Those are some of the challenges Cameroon is facing at this hour. So my friends, if you want to be getting videos like what we've done today, Subscribe, and subscribe to my show. Tell your friends about Speak of Africa. Tell your friends about Prince Ojong. Thank you very much.
Selling a service or a product? Need buyers? Use the African Nation TV as a channel to reach many viewers. Act now and call Prince Ojong at 240-350-1131. That's 240-350-1131. Act today.